I'm Liv.
And I'm Alessa.
And welcome to this week's edition of
LMA Talk Show, where we talk about everything and anything within the school.
This week's edition of the episode is going to be mental health, and we have Mrs. Fail and Mrs. Quist to join us.
So, you two are counselors in this school, so do you just want to introduce yourselves?
I'm Miss Vale. I work with students. Last name's S through Z. It's a rather large alphabet, but yeah, so if you're in that group, you're with me.
And I'm Miss Quist, and I work with students who have last names D-O through H.
Cool. How long have you guys been working at the school?
This is my 4th year.
And this is my first full year, but I did my school counseling internship here, and I long-term subbed here last spring as well.
Okay, cool.
Okay, we can start with the first question, which was, what made you want to start counseling?
All right, so before I was in school counseling, I was a coach over at MSUM, and you know, my favorite part of my job there was building relationships with the kids that I coached, and I realized that I wanted to make that like my full-time job, which is perfect for school counseling, and so went back to school, got my degree in school counseling, and here I am. So just the building relationships part of it is kind of what brought me here.
And prior to becoming a school counselor, I was an after-school program director for elementary school students in grades K through 5, and it was a STEM-focused after-school program, so we did science, technology, engineering, and math. And I loved developing those lesson plans for kids, but what I loved most was the days that I got to work with them through a hard feeling or a hard experience. And so I got connected with a school counselor at the school they went to and learned about her job and realized that I really wanted to be a counselor as well. So went back to school and met the West Fargo counseling team, and now here I am.
That kind of ties into our next question, which would be, what is your favorite part of the job?
Yeah, still definitely the same, building relationships with kids, and I think like celebrating their successes. So when a student comes down and is like, I just got into college, or I got an A on my math test, like celebrating with them is the absolute best, and just knowing like that we're a support for students and someone that they can come and talk to when things get hard, or if they do have something fun they want to share, it's just cool to be that person for them.
Yeah, I'm very, very similar to Miss Vale. I think part of my background in my schooling is clinical mental health counseling too. And what I like about school counseling is that I get to work with students for a variety of things. So I get to work with them on helping navigate a conflict with a friend, or how to manage stress, or how to manage their time. And so it's not always super heavy stuff when we're working with students, and so I really like that variety because it helps keep the day interesting, and every day is a little bit different, and so it's never boring in the counseling office.
That's for sure.
Okay, our next question was, as counselors, you often hear different stories that have different traumatic impacts. How do you cope with those heavier stories or heavier problems you guys get?
I think the one thing that we learn about in grad school is self-care, because if we're not taking care of ourselves as counselor, we can't be effective counselors for you students. And so I think the most important part for me is keeping work at work and not taking it home with me. And so when I close my computer for the day and walk out of school and drive home, then I'm in my home life and in my personal life, and so making sure to have that boundary and balance, and then making sure to cook meals every night, try and exercise throughout the week, and being able to relieve some stress from work, because if I'm stressing about work when I'm at home, it'll make me feel less prepared to deal with the stress when I get back to work. So boundaries and balance, I think, would be how I manage.
For sure, and I think we preach self-care to students all the time, like make sure you're taking care of yourself, do things you enjoy, and it's equally as important that we make sure we're doing those things too, instead of just like telling you one thing and doing something different. Like we really focus on doing those things too. And then like Ms. Quist said, just making sure that we set boundaries, and so knowing when it's time to turn off the computer, knowing when we need to ask for help with the situation. We try not to do everything by ourselves. We ask for help a lot, and so that really just shows us that, you know, it's a team supporting every student, and just knowing that we're not alone too.
Did it take a while to did it take a while to adjust to having to leave like the things you hear at school behind and instead of bringing them home? Like in the beginning, would you let it weigh on you a little bit, or was it easy to be able to kind of push past and go to your home life?
I think at the end of the day, we're humans, and like when we hear something that's, you know, super sad or like really traumatic, of course it's going to make a big impact on us, and it is definitely something that you have to learn. Like, okay, I really, really care about this student. but you know, it's 4 o'clock and the student is going home, and I have to trust that they have resources outside of school to help them as well. And so again, it's not just on us, but yeah, it's definitely something that you need to learn and adjust to.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think remembering that I think the ones that are the hardest are the ones where you can't do anything about what the student is experiencing at home, and so in that situation, processing it before leaving work for the day, so you're not the only one who's sitting with that information, so you can have a colleague kind of hold it with you is helpful, but it certainly does take some practice, and there are some days where it is harder to leave things at work and you sit with it for longer, but making sure that remembering that self-care is not something you do only when it's convenient, it is a part of the job. Mm-hmm. And so making sure that there's time built in to take care of yourself after a really hard day.
Yeah.
Right. I heard you say that you preach about self-care, and then you also have to like take that in mind. Do you guys find yourselves taking the advice you give to students? Like, do you find yourself following your own advice, like unknowingly, or just like realizing that you say something to a student and then you realize, oh, maybe I should take that advice too?
I think so.
Yeah, a lot of times, instead of like giving a student advice, a lot of times we just kind of like talk through situations with students and let you kind of get there on your own and kind of figure out what's going to be best for you. And so in that regard, definitely. As many people as I can talk through situations in my life with and try to figure out what's going to be best for me, the better. And I think, yeah, there are things like self-care, time management, not procrastinating, all of those things that I try to help students with. I'm also like, okay, I really need to get this done. And if I tell my students they should do it, I should be a good role model too.
Yeah, we never try to tell students directly what they should do, but more talking about what they could see themselves doing as a way to create solutions for the problems they're experiencing. And like Ms. Vale said, sometimes you realize there are some things that you tell a student that would be helpful for your own life.
Yeah. For those students who don't necessarily feel comfortable like reaching out right away to a counselor or just like the school in general, do you guys have any other resources for students that they could reach out to? Like, I know there's some online stuff that people can do where they can text back and forth with the communicator, but do you have sources that would help students reach out for that help?
I think starting with any trusted adult. So any adult that cares for you and that you care about, that's always a good place to start when a student is struggling. There are a lot of like apps and resources out there for mental health, but I think always starting with a human-to-human connection when you're struggling is a good first step.
And I also think there are other resources like your primary doctor that you go to if you're, a lot of them will just ask a mental health question like, are you feeling okay? And so that's a good place to start too. You can also ask parents to step out of the room during those appointments too if you're not fully comfortable. And just really, like Ms. Quiz said, any adult who you trust, you know, sometimes starting that conversation is the hardest part. And so just finding someone you care about and just kind of going down and finding a solution that's going to work together.
And two, I think always an National Suicide Hotline are always options as well. 211 is our community's first link, and it's our like helpline, anonymous helpline that you can call if you're having a hard time, and you talk with a trained professional who can just be there to talk with you and listen with you. And so those are options as well if you're not quite ready to take the leap into coming to the counseling office. But one thing we always suggest is if you're worried about reaching out to your counselor for this first time, bring a friend. Walk with your friend down to the counseling office to kind of like ease the nerves of walking in there for the first time.
Okay, so as kind of our last question, as you know, the semester is coming to an end. We're going to have the next semester next week. So what's your guys' best advice to those struggling with the new semester approaching?
Definitely a stressful time of year, that's for sure. I think that just going into it with an open mind and setting some goals for yourself, like, all right, this semester I know I'm going to set a goal to get everything done on time, not have missing assignments. That can really help you stay on track. If you're scared about new teachers, just having an open conversation with them the first day, like, hey, I'm so-and-so, and just kind of getting to know your teachers can help sort of ease that anxiety. And just staying confident in classes, knowing your resources, when to ask for help.
And I think viewing it as a fresh start. It's changes, it's new beginnings, it's uncertainty, but it's also an opportunity to have a clean slate again and move forward with a fresh set of classes and a fresh set of grades. And so having like a reframe in a mindset if students are worried about having new classes and new teachers.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming and talking with us. I guess this is...
It's an interesting, like, way of looking at it from a counselor's perspective, so
thanks for contributing that. So yeah, we're done
with this week's episode.
With this week's episode, we'll see you.
Oh gosh, what's the Wednesday after next Wednesday?
The 26th, I believe.
Is it? Just a quick second.
Oh, just a quick second. Yeah, the 26th.
The 26th.
We'll see you guys the 26th. Hope you guys have great weeks. And any students who are watching, hope you guys have a great next semester. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.